Alyssa, I've got 7:17 on my clock. I think we're just going to get started and we'll just archive it because I want to honor your time too. I know you have plenty of things to be doing along the way. So I'm just in a kind of an example grade book here that I want to kind of play around with. It happens to be a social studies teacher. When you get into Synergy, a lot of times what you'll do is you'll get into gradebook main, which is in the view that I'm in, and this is where you would see then assignments as they populate would be in there. You can toggle between your sections here in the upper left by switching between the sections. I don't have any assignments in this 4th hour for Econ 12 for Dave Bestel, so that's kind of the section that I'm gonna use here. I'm not modifying, just as a heads up, I'm not modifying Dave's gradebook. This is a sandbox site where it's not going to make modifications to anyone's work. Basically, think of Synergy as a big calculator. And what we're going to do for the next 15 or so minutes is just kind of tell the calculator how we want it to render, how we want it to look on the other side. So one of those ways that you can do that, a lot of what we're going to uncover today is going to be in something called Gradebook Setup. And when I click in Gradebook Setup, you're going to see a lot of these categories. So these are the types of categories that we're going to see. So when you create an assignment, for example, if you've got a reflection that kids are working on in music, then you can create that assignment in a specific category. And some of these are district created, and some of these we can create, which is nice that we have the ability to tailor what those assessments or assignments or tasks look like. The tab that I want to go to first today is called Assignment Types, and that's the 3rd tab in Gradebook Setup. In the many tabs of Gradebook, I went to Gradebook Setup, and now I'm going to choose Assignment Types. And when I do, now I have the ability to create new kinds of categories or eventually weights of those assignments by clicking on New. And when I do, I can give that assignment type name if I want to call these reflections, if that's something that you're working on with your students, or quizzes, etc. And then the next tab, it's asking here, what sequence? And you'll notice that there are already basically almost 1 through 5. I'm going to slide that in last because I want that to show up last. I don't need to set a specific timeline. I can choose a specific color if that helps you. A lot of times if you have many kinds of categories, you can decide then how that stands out versus the others, which is nice. When I'm feeling done with that, I'm just going to click on Insert. And you'll notice that reflections here shows up as a part of that option. Okay. When I click back into Gradebook Setup, so I went from assignment types to tell it what kind of categories. You're going to notice here when I went into Gradebook Setup, now it's asking, hey, what kind of percentage do you want? And this is when I just want to decide after conversations with my CT or my department chair, or maybe you even get these statistics from your teaching and learning specialists in music to decide then what do those percentages look like. So like 3 years ago when I was teaching Spanish, I remember that common summative assessment was 15%, I think, if I remember right. Maybe projects were 10%, and then tests, I'll just say 75 so that they end up adding up correctly. Okay, so when I click on update, then it even gave me the green light. I don't know if you noticed that in the upper right, it gave me a green light to say, hey, thumbs up, you're at 100%, which is great. So again, at this point in Gradebook Setup, we have added a category called Reflections, which I guess I haven't even given a weight yet, but that was just an example. And then I was able to, in Gradebook Setup, decide what the percentages were. Before I go any further, I also want to add, and this was noted in the calendar invite, if you go into Lock and Key, you can go back and find these lessons. I'm going to pull Lock and Key in to kind of show you what that icon looks like. But Infobase is what you're able to go into to get a little bit more extra help. You can always stop down and ask me. And if I don't know the answers, I'm going to go find those experts like Katie and Tom Skoglund over at the district office. For example, a lot of the new standards-based work is pretty new to me. It's new to the district, but you'll be able to find that in InfoBase by just searching Synergy, which is the name of our information system. And if you type Synergy, you're going to find something called Student Information System Attendance and Gradebook. And you'll see this lots of handouts, lots of short videos. I happen to go through them all recently as kind of a refresher for me too. So again, you can go back to that. You can always stop in and ask. You can always send me an email. And I would also add that screenshots help. So if you have you're coming into a hiccup, you're not sure where to go next, you can always go that route. So next, I just kind of want to, after we've had a chance to decide what those gradebook settings are, I want to look into the assignments and how those play out by percentage and by grade. And that's done in Gradebook Setup, which is what we're already in. And you're going to go to Score Types. Now there are two tabs for score types. One is called Gradebook Score Types, and the one is called Report Card Score Types. We're going to click first into Gradebook Score Types. And this is actually, these are, I've got it here in my notes that these are what influences the assignments and not the actual calculation of the grade. Now, there's a district suggestion, and CTs can decide if they want to use that or if they can duplicate it. And that means that you can make a copy of it and then tailor it to your specifics. Okay, so you're going to notice in the bottom, you have proficiency scales for standards-based folks. And on top, you have percentages for the folks that are using points-based. This session today is all about points-based, right? Total points at the bottom of that equation, and on top, total points that the students earned. You can distribute those percentages then based on those categories that we just introduced. So we can decide to duplicate. We can decide to, if you chose to duplicate, just let me know. I'll stop by and kind of walk you through it step by step on how to do that also. So this decides then what you're using here in terms of not the end grade calculation, but per assignment. So when a student earns 88% on a reflection, that they're earning a B+, and that reflects then in the grade book. When students view it on student view and parents view it on parent view. Once that is decided, you're actually going to go to the grade calculation, and you're going to look for these names like district-wide to then select that. And I can do that in the next tab called Report Card Score Types. And these are the ones that come out in the calculation of the overall grade. So again, Genesis grading is the district recommendation for points-based. You'll see all of the percentages laid out here, and there are pages of this. So try not to feel overwhelmed, but again, you're going to want to look for direction from your CT, your department lead, your mentor, your teaching and learning specialist to say, hey, what are we using? Oh, and they'll know immediately. Oh yeah, Genesis grading is probably going to be the default if you're using points in your department. So again, this gives you a chance to do that. You can duplicate it and tailor it. There's a little edit button. If I were to click duplicate, there's a little green edit button that's located right about here if you want to do that. You'll notice that these are the low end scores. So the low score here, 93%, is the low end score for that A. That actually reminds me, back in Gradebook Setup in the first tab, you have some settings that you can toggle on rounding. And this varies by instructor, I found out when I was teaching Spanish in this district, that you can decide if you want to round by 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places, or just by whole number. And again, that's just going to vary based on instructor. So you're going to want to take a peek in Gradebook Setup, the second tab called Gradebook Settings. You're going to see some of these options to kind of tailor. Some of these things you don't need to worry about, like inherit assignments from the district. I would keep that on. I always wanted to be alerted when a student was added so I could anticipate their arrival, because I wasn't always getting emails about that. And no need to worry about interpretation scale at the bottom because we're operating in points based in this grade book. Two other things I want to show you before I kind of show you how to insert an assignment, and I want to check on time, and it looks like we're good for time. One is that second to last tab called Gradebook Comments. These are things that you'll be able to easily add when you are entering scores for an assignment. So a lot of the district preloaded ones are listed here: absent, late, missing. And then what I was doing when I was teaching Spanish is I took a screenshot of these and just put it on my desktop so I would remember, oh, it's missing MI. And then you have some play in how that affects the grade. So if you type in 0 MI, then you have the option to kind of flag that as an assignment that's counting against the student's grade, for example, so that at the end there's not as kind of a sudden surprise for the grade. You can also add these by clicking on new, or you can edit the current ones that are given. I believe you only have editing rights to the non-district ones, so the ones that have already been added by you personally. But this is, again, a chance for you to easily add into your assignments what things are missing, when a student was absent for your own records, or to kind of signal to parents, guardians, caretakers, and our students. So you can do that in Gradebook Comments. All right. The last section I want to go over before we enter a score is called Final Grade Config. And this is kind of the big one at the end. You're going to save yourself time if you go Gradebook down to Final Grade Config and skip immediately to the second tab called Final Grade Defaults. This is going to save you time because let's say a new student, Javier, shows up on Monday. When that student is added, it's going to inherit all of the same preferences, all of the same grading book setups. The time that you put into it is going to pay off for all of the students. So I mentioned things like Genesis grading earlier. You get to choose then and you can peek back and find out if you're choosing the correct one. A lot of times when they make a duplicate, they'll put their name in there. So if I was making a duplicate of Genesis gradebook, then I would call it maybe Becker's 1 to remind me, hey, it's mine that's duplicated and it's specific to Spanish 1 or whatever courses that I'm teaching, okay? So I'm gonna choose Genesis gradebook on all of those. I'm gonna apply them to the classes that I want to, so I don't have to repeat all this, which is nice. And I can just save that and I can apply that to all students, okay? So now you'll see that Genesis grade default, when I go back to tab 1, final score config, you're going to see Genesis grading showing for every single student, okay? Now, I want to quick add one assignment before you head to first hour. Do you have a class first hour, Alyssa? Should I go hyperspeed? I'll try to go hyperspeed.
Yeah, I do have a class first hour.
I wish I had a hyperspeed. Assignments. I needed one more cup of coffee, Alyssa, to go hyperspeed. Okay, when I go into main gradebook, main gradebook, first tab, I can click on a new assignment. Okay, you can go quick assignment or you can go new. I'm just going to click on new to kind of get you the full scope of what adding an assignment looks like. Okay, so I'm just going to call this test assignment 1, test 1. You give it an assignment type. We talked about what kind of categories we wanted. It was the first tab that we looked at. I'm going to call this my first reflection. That's going to influence, actually I'm going to choose, I'm going to call it test because I know that's one that we gave it a percentage to, so it will actually calculate. I would select raw score. This could vary based on instructor, but I always chose a raw score. I'm just going to call it 10 points. Max score, it's worth 10 points. Okay, the max score kind of flags when we need to, when we enter a score that's higher, it will kind of flag us and say, hey, are you sure you want to enter 15 here? Okay, you can multiply, you can, change the date of the assignment when it's due. You can give it a specific category. A lot of times I was assigning assignments that weren't for the grading, and I could decide if I want it to be a normal assignment, an extra credit assignment, or a not for grade, which wouldn't have any effect on grade, but it was a way to communicate to students and parents about that. So you can assign the same assignment to multiple sections and also to multiple grading periods. Now, this is a common miss for new staff. Unfortunately, we still need to do this. So every time you enter an assignment, every time you just want to make sure that you're entering all of these. These are all the times that you're going to report to the office, hey, this is the update of the student's grade. That will then be communicated to parents and students on their side, on student view, parent view. So you want to make sure that you do that. Okay, you can add things like tasks, resources here as links, upload assignments to. That to me, probably a better fit in Google Classroom for me personally. When I click on Save Assignment, and now I have an assignment here waiting to go, and I can just give that score out of 10 points. You're going to see that score come in. Now, for some reason here on this grade calculation, it's not coming out, and I'm wondering if I didn't choose the correct category for that assignment. But normally when we have all the setup done here, this is going to showcase a percentage, and I'm going to go back and make sure that I did all that, or that maybe I just chose the incorrect category. But anyway, you'll see a percentage here as I fill in assignments too. Questions that come up right away, Alyssa? That was a fast presentation.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Just wanted to make sure I had a good sense of it.
Sounds good. Keep me posted what questions that you have. And again, InfoBase is going to be your chance to be able to get some more, but then also don't hesitate to stop by or email. Okay.
Perfect. Have a good one.
Have an awesome day. Take care.
Thank you.